Let's continue with our first speaker, Ciphrd. And Ciphrd is the founder of FX Hash NFT art platform, which operates in Tezos and is dedicated to generative art. And he's also himself a generative artist. So please welcome Ciphrd. The floor is yours, and we are curious to know more.
Thanks for this introduction, and welcome to this talk. Today I'd like to speak about how blockchains, and in particular NFTs, have changed the way art is being shared and consumed, and how it's going to be a catalyst for how the art is going to be in the upcoming years. So I'm Ciphrd. I founded FX Hash about a year ago. Out of a need for myself to post some content on the blockchain. And oh, sorry, yeah. I'm going to walk you a little bit through my journey in order for you to understand why blockchains are going to be especially powerful for digital art, and in particular generative art. So I got into generative art quarterly when I was young. But at the time being, I had no idea I was doing anything related to art, let alone generative design or something. I was basically crafting video games, trying to explore algorithms I was young, I was eager to discover new stuff, and I had a computer and the internet. And so as I got into developing video games, developing website, I got into crafting experiences that were less and less usual, more of conceptual ideas, interactive stuff, audio visualization, and that's how I got really into exploring systems and the algorithms through an artistic perspective. So these are, for instance, some of my works, at least some that I could recover, because I was quite messy when I was young, so most of it is gone now. But it kind of shows like the wide range of possibility that you can have with generative art. I used to manipulate images, manipulate systems, try out audio visualization stuff, work with particular interfaces. Things like that. And this is quite old stuff, but kind of led me to where I am today. And when I used to be like 20, I was doing all of this on my computer. Basically, the final output was only a file on my computer or some code on my computer, and there was nothing more. And I started to think about, okay, how can I share this with the world? And I kind of came to the conclusion that there were no great solutions. All of the solutions that we had at the time being were made of compromise. So basically, and a lot of us artists went to that. I posted my stuff on a platform, Instagram, at the time being. And it was, to me, the best way to share my stuff. You could easily reach out to an audience, you could get feedback on your work, and you had to work with some pretty limited constraints. So you have to post a video file or an image file, and it can accept audio, but that's it, And when you're doing code-based art, there's so much more. Like there is interactivity, there is variations that can be explored. You can explore the parametric space in real time, and it's so much more to just posting a video online. And it cuts freedom in the creativity, because this is the way people are experiencing the work that you put out there. And again, at the time being, like I was young, I had no idea how to reach out to the outside world, and so to me, it was already a big step to be able to show my work like this, but I was already feeling pretty constrained with that. So I like to make art with computer. Know what? What am I going to do with that? I want more. I want to do something outside. Maybe I want to really showcase what's the power of designing something with code and showing it to people the way it was intended to. So I experienced a bit, sorry for the poor quality. I grabbed this from my phone. I did some VJing, so basically doing the audio reactive stuff behind the DJs at concerts. But again, there are big constraints. You have some freedom in the visuals. You can, you know, create better experiences for the audience, but it's not exactly what I wanted. And again, freedom is quite limited. So I started to explore some interactive installations. So this was like, again, pretty rough images. Sorry, I grabbed everything from my phone last week. And, you know, this project, it was hard to get this out there. I wanted to bring interactivity to my systems, have people interact with them in a meaningful way, the way I was exploring them when I was doing some code. And it was difficult because I knew nobody. And when you have to post something out there, you need to know some structures, you need to know some people. And when you're young and when you don't know anybody, it's very difficult to get to a stage where you can do something digital, at least like that. And I got like great opportunities because of Instagram, actually, because people started to know me. So I was able to get some commissioned work. This is, for instance, an installation that was done by Our Tech House, Life of a Neuron. So it was an interactive installation where people could explore fluorescence microscopy. And it was amazing to design that, and I loved it. But again, it was only because I had the luck that they reached out to me and that I had this opportunity. They handled the whole production, and I had basically not much to do in that regard, which facilitates everything. And it got me to wonder. I have a lot of. It takes a lot of time to build all of this, lots of energy. And honestly, it's not. It wasn't sustainable financially for me. And money is like a core primitive of our society. So it's something that we need to take care of before we can do what we like, usually. And no, was pretty sad about this because I came to the conclusion that to do what I wanted to do, either I had to make some big compromises or I had to like do another job on the side, which I was already doing. And this is when I met blockchain technology in this part of my life where I was struggling to get my work out there. And I posted something on Iketnunk. It was my second NFT actually, but my first on the Tezos blockchain. So the one on the bottom right. And in the span of like 24 hours, people bought it, and I was able to make $2,000 or something. And at the time being, for me, it was like really amazing to be able to get some money out of my work like that. And it instantly clicked, like this has so much potential to help me in my creative journey, because this is basically Instagram, but in the end, people buy your post on Instagram because it's the same difficulty to get the work out there. You have to post a file online and it gets on some sort of service and people can interact with it. But on Instagram, you don't own this work and people can't claim ownership of some of this work. Whereas on blockchain technology, this is possible, and this is what makes it very powerful. So I found a setup where I was able to basically do what I was doing before, but get paid for doing it, which is, again, quite amazing when we think about it. And this is the big power of blockchain technology and of NFTs. It's a new way of connecting people, and especially connecting people in the context of digital art. Because again, money is a core primitive of our technology. Having this sitting on top of a technology where it's a currency facilitates the life of the people that interact with this medium. So artists can get paid through posting on this. Collectors can make money and get ownership of something in, again, a meaningful way for digital art. So this is where it really shines and why it's so much powerful. And if we think about this, it's only a primitive to construct something else. It's like internet, basically. It's a way to connect, but it's not a mean or the end of something. It's only the network that facilitates everything else. Now it brings me to why blockchains are so meaningful for generative art. So in a sense, when you're doing generative art, you're basically creating some code that has a parametric space. And this parametric space can be very wide. And your work as an artist is to explore this, first of all, define the parametric space, and then explore it and navigate through it and take micro decisions all along the way to shape how this parametric space is going to influence the algorithm that you're constructing. And traditionally, when we were posting some generative art, or either it was live interaction, live installation, so in real life or on a web browser or an application on a computer, but it was either the artist creates a set of outputs, or the artist puts the algorithm as it is and people explore it by themselves. And what's interesting with blockchain is that now there is a way to post something that has the parametric space configured and have people put some stamps on this saying, okay, this is going to be my iteration of the parametric space. And this way, when you're designing something, it's much more meaningful, because previously you were designing a great parametric space, but now you're designing a very meaningful parametric space for what you want to define. And you want to make sure that your algorithm and the space are working together in a beautiful way, and that the outputs that are going to be randomized in the end are all what you intended to do. And again, because you can make money by selling this, it's why it's so powerful for the artists nowadays. And it brings the question, first of all, how many technologies have shifted the artistic landscape as much as computers did? Think about it, like before computers, art evolved slowly through time with small technical advances. Mostly these were advances where people were improving the techniques using certain tools. A few tools came along the way to help us in our tasks. But since computers have risen, there's been a massive paradigm shift in how we produce content. And it's the same for art. There's a new way of creating art using facilitated through software, or actually by building software that will produce what we conceptualize. And since the computers rise, there's been a sector of art, which is digital art, that was very hard to sell or very hard to prove ownership of, or to share out there. And now that blockchains are there, they offer this sort of, again, primitive to make sharing digital art possible, owning digital art possible. And it's why it's a technology that's as much important for arts than computers were. It's maybe not exactly on this scale, but it's going to be, and it is already a massive shift in how art is being experienced. And this is where I'm going to speculate a little bit. We know the current state of blockchain in the art space. We know that it changed the way our artists are living. It changed the way we're collecting digital art. But again, we are only in very early stages of this whole change of paradigm. I believe that in the upcoming years, we are going to see a transition, a blending between the virtual and the real world. It's already been worked on with the metaverse, with augmented reality, virtual reality. All of these technologies are going to converge at some point and make our life blended again more with the digital space. And it's easy to think how blockchains are going to be a big part of this, because blockchain or this technology that through money or through a currency connect people. And since, again, money is primitive of our society, it's going to be one of the key aspects that help sharing information in a way where there's ownership, there's meaningful and permanent data inscribed somewhere. And we can easily imagine how this is going to be massive for anything in the art space. So thinking about interactive installations, like right now, we basically have to put our name out there, try to find places where we can post our stuff, invest money in building the tools to make those installations a reality. And in the end, we are not getting paid very much for doing that. But let's imagine that years from now, when we enter a space where we see a nice piece with a nice interactive design, we can collect this on the go and the artist gets compensated. There's many ways in which it's going to change how the world is, the art is getting consumed in the real life. And this is, I think, where the next steps are going to be for blockchains, not stay on the computer where it actually shines, but blend themselves in the real world and facilitate all of this data is being exchanged. And yeah, that's about it. I wanted to put a little thank you image because I like to work with text on my systems, but I lost this algorithm. So you have a hello instead. Yeah, thanks for listening to this talk. If you have any questions, feel free to ask those questions. I believe.
Ciphrd, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you so much for your presentation. Can you tell us a bit more about your NFT art market platform, FX Hash? Do you like everyone who wants can mint there? Do you create somehow the works are there? How many artworks do you have on this platform?
Yeah. So one thing that's important to me, and as mentioned before, is when you're an artist and you reach the state where you have something to put out there, I feel that there should be platforms that can accept your work right away, like to have the freedom to post on these platforms. And when I wanted to post generative art at the time being on blockchains, I did not have the opportunity to post anywhere because the existing platforms were, first of all, on expensive blockchains and were curated at the entrance, which made posting there impossible. And it's not like how I envisioned the blockchain technologies. So I built FXH with this paradigm in mind, be open to people so that they can post everything that they want and centered around generative art. And currently there's been thousands of artists that posted on FX. There's, I don't know the exact number, but I believe almost 20,000 different projects on the platform. And we've had more than 1 million of single iterations of these works generated. These iterations being actual NFTs where collectors have the ownership of their iteration.
Well, the forgeries is a serious problem on NFT art market, the fakes, so to say. Like, how do you deal with those in your platform?
The fakes, the scams?
Yeah, like forgeries, yeah.
So in December, people started to see that there was money to make on the platform. And suddenly we saw some artists posting there. But of course, these were people impersonating existing artists using their name and the code that they posted on other platforms already. And we saw this and we decided to take actions to, protect this artist and protect the collector base. And we have a pretty rudimentary system, but it works very well now. So we wanted to keep the open nature of the platform, but we needed to be able to moderate and protect collectors and artists. So what we did is that there is no 3 hours delay. Once you post a work, if you're not verified on the platform, there's a 3-hour delay before people can mint an iteration of the piece. And during this delay, we have some time, to check the legitimacy of the work, if the artist is actually the one that produced it. And if, and only if, we have serious proofs that this is a suspect, that we really need to investigate this more thoroughly, we can block the mint until we come to a decision. And it's a system where there is manual moderation. So the community is involved in finding this and reporting these tokens. And eventually there is a bit of centralization because a few people can make the call, okay, this work doesn't fall into our guidelines. And we've established pretty strict guidelines now on what should be moderated and what shouldn't. And we keep those guidelines open to the community to make sure that we're not crossing a line at some point, because we want to avoid centralization being, a gate for artists publishing on the platform.
Yeah, talking about centralization, here in the chat, there is one suggestion by Isaac, he's asking, what about forking, using the forking technique as with code on GitHub to legitimize the artist, basically using community for this? Do you, how do you envision this? Is it something, could it be useful, or it's too much?
I'm not sure that I understand the question quite correctly. Forking on GitHub, I don't see how it's related to detecting scams in a way.
Yeah, I mean, I think he meant more using community for this work, that the community can kind of also do the deal with forgeries for the platform, basically.
So we have a report system. Well, we used to have a report system that was on-chain, so people could send their report. And if X reports were registered in a certain time span, we would hide the work from the platform until a moderation team will check its legitimacy. The problem with that approach is that not everyone on the blockchain is nice. And so some people, are creating some bots to report something and trick the system into putting a work into scam. And then you have an artist that's been put into the scam directory, and you have to explain to them that, it was someone with malicious intent that did that. And so eventually, the report system was moved off chain now on Discord, so everyone can create a post and explain their concerns given certain work. And it's a lot of work, and it's not easy, to...
I hear you. So about a lot of work, how big is your team? How if someone wants to do the same, open up the platform, how big's supposed to be the team? How easy or how difficult is to open and then run the platform?
It's a tricky question. There's different components at play. The first one is, how many do you need to be to open a platform like that? You need to be 1 people. Well, I was alone when I launched it, and I was alone for the first week, and I was the only developer for the first month, 4 or 5 months. But eventually, people like the project and offered their help to moderate the community, to start organizing the Discord and everything. And as the platform grew, this team started to become, more solid. There were people that wanted to stay, others that didn't want, and we organically built a team out of these people that were engaged in the project and liked the project. And now we are a team of 13 people. We've transitioned for people doing this on their own time for free to everyone is getting paid for doing what they are doing, with like some more structure of the company and things like that. But in the beginning, it was really it was chaotic.
Like all great beginnings, right?
I don't know.
Okay, Ciphrd, thank you.